Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I forgot to film an intro for this video because I was under the mindset this was all going to be one big video, which it is, but right now I'm releasing it in parts so I can at least get some videos up within the year. So hello, welcome to technically part 1 of the 5 Sauce series, which is a little channel-wide series we're going to go on throughout the rest of the year. I have already uploaded a part 0, if you will, where we talk about the first 2 years of 5 Seconds of Summer's history, and that video is the one where I have my kind of real intro with a script and cool visuals and music and everything. So if you're interested in that, make sure you go check out the previous video on my channel. You don't need to watch it to understand what's going on in this video, but like I said, it has the cool intro, and I think it provides a lot of good context. Plus, it's like 50 minutes long. I don't know how I talked about 5 Sauce for that long. So you don't have to watch that video, and if you're not going to, let me update you on where we left off. We last talked about how One Direction asked 5 Sauce to join them on their tour, and they moved to London at the end of 2012. So this video picks up from there and goes on to talk about the self-titled album that dropped in 2014. So if you're interested in that, keep watching. One more thing is that I was trying out a new angle with my camera when I was recording, so occasionally I'll be like looking off to the side on accident because I didn't know where I was supposed to be looking, so I'm sorry if it's a bit disorienting. I do eventually figure it out throughout the video, but yeah, for the first few minutes it might be a little awkward. Maybe just like play Candy Crush or something while listening in the background during that part. I apologize for my disheveled look. It's like 2 in the morning and I'm currently editing the video and I realize, oh yeah, intros need to happen. I can't just start the video. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye for now. Start of the video. It's been a few months. We now have a little bit of background. Don't worry, it'll get developed more as time goes on. We're in a transitional period right now. Also, I'm in my comfy little jacket because I'm cold. It's the middle of winter right now as I'm recording this. This isn't a warm beverage, by the way. It's actually a vitamin C packet because it's flu season and I do not want to get sick. I will not get sick. I don't know if it was a controversial opinion or not to say that the Somewhere New era of the band began once they moved to London. It very well could be because this is more of a transitional period in between eras. Something we need to understand is that these are, not inanimate video game characters. They don't just go from section to section. They really have more nebulous transition periods in between eras. So I guess we could call this like the 1D tour era, the small little point in time in between them being a younger band and them really preparing to drop their first album. I've had notes this entire time, by the way. This is very funny. I referenced this in my Babysitter's a Vampire video. I held up this notebook and was like, please ignore the fact that I have this current notebook out right now. I don't know if you can see, but I have a sticky note that says 5 Sauce notes on it. I've been using this notebook that I bought like 5 years ago for 50 cents as my sort of like 5 Sauce notebook. I couldn't find any other pieces of paper when I was recording the My Babysitter's Vampire video, so I just used this real quickly and I ripped out the page. And that was like over a year ago at this point. So, things are really all coming together now. I've had this planned for a while now. Also, it is very late at night, so if I get a little bit delirious, I apologize. If you look at the time, I don't know if it'll focus. I don't know if you can see here. But, it is currently almost midnight. Also, look at my 5 Sauce lock screen. Isn't that fun? I'll link it in the description. I did not make this. I found it on Pinterest. While we're here, look at my Mabav wallpaper. Isn't that fun? I must mention My Babysitter's a Vampire in every video of mine. Years ago, I wrote down timelines and dates and everything. I very much prepared myself for this exact moment. So I have written down here that the Take Me Home tour, which was the tour that One Direction did worldwide, that 5 Seconds of Summer opened for, I have here that it started on February 23rd and ended in November of 2013, which is a very long time. In between touring, the band was also writing a lot of songs, which is why I consider this to be like the real beginning of the self-titled era, because they were writing a lot of songs that would eventually end up on the EPs and the album. And of course, this is 2 years from now, but, while they were on tour, they were clearly very busy. So they would live in London, write songs, go to writing sessions, go on tour for a few months, come back, write a few more songs, go back on tour. It went back and forth like that for the entirety of 2012. A lot of stuff happened during this tour, a lot of important moments. This is when people really became fans of 5 Seconds of Summer because of their connection to One Direction. Sadly, I never got to get into One Direction before their hiatus. Hopefully when they get back together, I'll be able to get back into the fandom or something. A lot of important songs were written during these sessions. For example, Good Girls and Heartbreak Girl, of course. They actually released a music video for this song very early on. I can't remember the exact date. Did I write it down? I did not write down when Heartbreak Girl came out, so I'll just have to answer that in post. The music video is like vlog footage of them living in London at the time, so it works as a cute little time capsule. So it seems at this time, while they were on tour with One Direction, they were working towards eventually getting a record deal and also working towards getting their album out. They seemed to be really passionate about writing music and getting music created. And now things on the more business side were starting to kind of line up. So with the Take Me Home tour completed in November of 2013, the band then moved to Los Angeles, California. And I'm pretty sure this move coincided with them signing officially to Capitol Records. If I remember correctly, they signed either a 3-album or a 4-album deal with Capitol Records, and this is what officially kind of launched them really getting into writing the album mode. So they stayed in this cute little house in Los Angeles, California, got thousands of dollars into debt, as an early band does, and focused a lot on writing the new album. So now that we're officially in the year 2014, exactly 10 years ago, isn't that fun to think about? It's time to get into talking about the self-titled era. So a lot of things are happening within these first few months before we get to the drop of their first single. Don't you know I'm talking about 5 Seconds of Summer in this room? Can you drive your motorcycle on another street, perhaps? I want to talk more about 5 Sauce on social media a little bit later on in this video series, but right now I want you to know that there are plenty of vlogs that they made around this time that show them while they were recording this album officially. Because they had done a lot of songwriting in London, but were now doing a lot of recording and making the tracks in California. If you go on their Instagram page, you can specifically see the exact day that they recorded the demo for Amnesia, as well as just a lot of studio footage of them hanging out and creating the album and such. Also on their Keek account, but we'll get into Keek later, okay? I cannot get into Keek right now.
Hey, Caleb.
Guys! You know? We just need to tell you all that we have a good feeling. Not you suck. You're supposed to say hello. We are in the studio recording an acoustic song today for the album. Hi. Hi. We would just like to say a massive thank you for all the voting you guys are doing for the MTV's Buzzworthy Breakthrough Artist of the Year. It's really exciting, and we love you guys lots. Thanks.
So officially, in February of 2014, I'm pretty sure the 24th, I actually have it written on my calendar up here. Yes, February 24th, 2014, She Looks So Perfect, the music video drops. If I plan everything right, then February 24th is when this video will be coming out. And exactly the 10-year anniversary of the music video. I know the track itself already dropped in early February by this time, but listen, it's going to be a miracle if I get it out on the 24th, so, you know, you got to give me some wiggle room. So this is a very important moment. She Looks So Perfect is a very important song for the band. I mean, it's their first ever official single. Yes, they have dropped singles before and have dropped music videos before, but this is the first one to be dropped internationally and with the backing of a record label and all of their marketing perks. Something that's important to remember about 5 Sauce is that they are an international band. As a filthy, dumb American, I'm completely ignorant to what happens outside of the United States hallowed halls, so I will be focusing on the Billboard Hot 100 for their success. Another reason why a lot of international bands and artists want to be on the Billboard Hot 100 is because us Yanks have literally nothing better to do but to consume media and be ignorant about things. So Billboard chart success is important to a lot of artists, especially international ones. But I have to also acknowledge that they were very, successful on the Australian charts as well as the British charts. Like, I want to clarify that. I just don't know shit about that because I'm unaware. The She Looks So Perfect music video is a cultural touchstone in many, many ways. I feel like 2014 was a very unique year for pop music. I'm so excited, guys. I get to do my little pop music rant. I love learning about the history of pop music, especially in America. I find it completely fascinating, and I really never get to talk about it because none of my friends are into it, and none of the videos I happen to make revolve around it. So this is me just gonna unload all of my 2010s pop music history onto you guys. I hope you don't mind. I think it's very important to provide context because 5 Seconds of Summer are a very popular artist. So because of that, the pop music landscape matters a lot to the context of their music coming out. Without understanding what music sounded like the years that they dropped their albums, it's to misinterpret why the general public and the music listening world reacted to their albums the way that they did. So I'm hoping my bits of knowledge and my personal opinions on music history will kind of help lay the work for what Five Sauce did during their career and what they'll continue to do. 2014 is considered by many to be a quote-unquote bad year for pop music, and by that I mean all the 30-year-old neckbeards just didn't like how girly and bubblegum everything was. I'm pretty sure Fancy by Iggy Azalea and Charlie XCX was the #1 song at the time that She Looks So Perfect dropped. And Katy Perry's Prism is the big album of the year, which a lot of people consider one of her lesser albums. I mean, there's also Witness, but And overall, pop music has really experienced the biggest shift it was going to make in the 2010s when Lorde dropped Royals. Now, why does Lorde's Royals mean anything when it comes to the history of Five Sauce? It means quite a lot, okay? And it'll affect everything that every artist in the popular music scene does for the rest of the decade. And you may think I'm being dramatic, but you have to understand that Royals by Lorde changed everything. In retrospect, it doesn't feel like as big of a deal as it was at the time, but it really was. And also, Lorde and Five Sauce are kind of contemporaries of each other. I'm pretty sure they're around the same age. So this sort of wave of artists was really starting to push in to the pop music scene and was eventually going to get taken over by Gen Z by the end. So, we'll get there when we get there. But you just have to know that Royals by Lorde really does change everything, and 2014 is the year that this song comes out. But of course, Lorde's impact won't be felt until the years after. Right now, things are still very party club tracks. I should explain why Royals by Lorde is such an important song in case people haven't heard it. I bet there's some real young people out there who haven't even heard the song at all because I don't know how culturally meaningful it is anymore now. The start of the 2010s had club dance music at the very top of the charts. Pitbull is featured on every track. Every track is about being at the club and being broke but still wanting to hang out at the club because this is a reaction to the 2008 housing crisis. Think Like a G6, think Lady Gaga's The Fame album, very, very club dance track oriented. Pop music got a lot more sugary once club dance music splintered into 2 separate genres, more on the rap side and then more on the EDM side. They do conjoin back together again once the tropical EDM trends really starts to come in, but that's around 2015, so right now things are still very bubblegum, very what one would call TRL pop if TRL existed at this time. But 5 Seconds of Summer were able to slide in with a summer jam at the perfect time because the influx period of pop music is about to happen. And they were able to just really slide in when everything was a little bit lighthearted, a little bit too goofy and unserious. So all of the dudes who review pop music and chart watch were like, what is this bullshit? But all the 11-year-old girls who listened to the radio 24/7 were really into it. Oh, my refrigerator just started making noise. That's gonna be a problem. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to deal with it for a little bit. She Looks So Perfect is a wonderful pop song of sorts. Now, is it really time for me to get into my whole pop and punk dichotomy again? I think so. I'm getting quite warm though. I think I need to take off my jacket. There, things are getting spicy in here. The jacket has to come off. So let's talk about the creation of She Looks So Perfect real quick. So the She Looks So Perfect EP came out somewhere around this point. I can't remember quite when. I'll insert it in post. Something we need to understand about She Looks So Perfect is that, is it time for the tinfoil hat again? I think it is. It has been well documented that Michael did not like She Looks So Perfect when they created the song. And they never said why. When people asked why, he just went, oh, I just didn't like it or whatever, you know? But my personal theory on this, and we're gonna get the tinfoil out again, this one definitely looks way worse than the previous one, but it gets the job done. My personal theory as to why there was some dissatisfaction with She Looks So Perfect as a song is because it was way too pop. I have no way of proving this, but based on some Instagram videos that were dropped and some keeks that were made around the time that I think She Looks So Perfect was recorded, they were recording songs like Green Light and Independence Day and maybe even Social Casualty. People can debate with me as much as they want about this, I don't mind, but I think those songs are a lot heavier than what a lot of ended up on the official album. So the prevailing theory is that they were writing a lot of Warped Tour sounding, still leaning more on the pop side definitely, but a lot more easycore, pop punk, radio punk style music. All of these genres mean nothing, I'm just using them as words that I think people might understand when trying to give an idea of what these songs sound like if you've never heard them before, because they're kind of obscure. So my theory is that they wrote this song, I think it was Jake Sinclair specifically who they co-wrote the song with, and he's the one who came up with the central conceit of You Look So Perfect Standing There in My American Apparel Underwear. Truly a lyric for the ages. I've seen many people call it one of the worst lyrics in all of pop music history. Fair enough. So yeah, there's my theory. They all thought She Looks So Perfect was way too pop and not really in the sound they wanted to go in, but the record producers were like, hey, y'all got a hit on your hand. Do you want to be big and successful? Drop it as a single and you'll get there. And I mean, they did. Oh, that was an awful sound it made as it came out of my head. So yes, the song is doing well on the radio. It's getting some traction, some sales, you know. The EP is quite great, honestly. And also, let's just get into the idea of the EPs right away. So with each single that they dropped for their self-titled album, they also dropped around 3 or 4 songs with each single. Originally, these were all listed as EPs. So there would be the single and then there would be the EP. But there's been some rewriting of history. I went and checked on the Wikipedia page for their discography, and now it just seems to list all of the EPs as a single. The only problem with that is that a single literally means a single song. Like, it originates from the idea of selling a record that only has a single track on it. So at most, 2 songs. So an EP, an extended play, is anything over 2 songs. And these are all over 2 songs, so they are most definitely EPs. But this is a very confusing thing that they were doing. They basically dropped a whole album's worth of music before they had really dropped the album proper, because they were just attaching all of these songs to the single releases. And they were only available on iTunes, and I don't know if they're still available now. I have no idea how iOS works. Y'all saw my crummy phone from 4 years ago. I have no idea how this modern technology works. I deal everything in CDs. It's still 2014 in my mind right now as I'm making this video. So the only reason why we have access to a lot of these songs, and up until before 2016, the only way we had access to these songs was to buy them on iTunes, and then people would upload bootleg copies onto the internet and make lyric videos off of them. Something that the fans hold very dear to them, including myself, are the songs that were released on these EPs, because they were some of the best tracks of theirs. And a lot of us find it quite infuriating that a lot of these songs didn't end up on the album proper. They really should have. Specifically, Disconnected is a really sweet song, and it's actually been like a fan favorite up until the modern day. They've had it on their set list since the 2020s. I quite like it, and the fact that I'm able to really enjoy the song, even though it has the line, the cell phone calls, and the hashtag I don't knows, That's how you know it's a good song, because that's an inherently cringy line, but the song is still really good. The song is about, wanting to disconnect from, social media and technology and just be with the person you love. And I feel like that's a message that reigns even more true now. And it seems really cute just coming from a young person. Like, maybe I should put down Twitter and hang out with my girlfriend every once in a while, The Only Reason is an amazing ballad. I have always loved The Only Reason. It's a great deep cut of theirs, and I feel like it needs more appreciation. I know it did get its flowers eventually in time, but yeah, great track. There's also Heartache on the Big Screen, which is really unique. It reminds me quite a lot of a song by Mayday Parade called Black Cat, and I love that song, so, not gonna throw any shade or anything, just gonna recommend the song Black Cat by Mayday Parade. Overall, I think the She Looks So Perfect EP is a great first quote-unquote official release for the band to have, and the only reason why I'm going more in-depth over this EP than the other ones is because this is my video, I can do whatever I want, first of all, and second of all, because of that, I see this EP more of like an actual EP than the other ones. The other ones, to me, just feel like singles with extra songs on them. But this one feels like an official EP, which is why none of the songs besides, the single are on the album. So in that sense, that's why I think this is a very important extended play for them to release. And I think it's quite good. And I recommend it. This is the first thing I'm actually recommending in this series that you listen to if you're wanting to get into Five Sauce. It has some nice 2010s pop sensibility on there. I was ranting about the She Looks So Perfect EP and my camera died. So it's been a few hours, but I'm back. Also, I've changed mugs. We've officially switched to coffee. We're in full caffeine mode now that it's very, very late at night. There was also a hidden track on the She Looks So Perfect EP that was by the not-so-secret band 500 Years of Winter, which I'm pretty sure is a joke that originated or was at least mentioned in one of their vlogs. The song was called Pizza, and it is 50 seconds long, and it is a very popular song among the fandom. I feel like I remember it being hard to find back in the day. Like, if I remember correctly, it was only really released on the cassette tapes that were thrown in Los Angeles at a random record store, so only a few people got copies of it and then they uploaded it to the internet. Now that it's on streaming and people request it every time they do a live show, people have started to find it a little bit annoying, but it was a cute little deep cut, if you were a fan at the time. And plus, it is definitely one of the heavier songs they've ever made. So I always felt like 500 Years of Winter was their way of just kind of, getting that kind of heavier sound out of their system so they can then go on to make stuff that was suitable for the radio. And no proof of this. I'm not going to say this is exactly why they made the song Pizza or had the fake alternate band of 500 Years of Winter, but it's definitely something to consider. So I think them leaning more into their pop instincts is truly what lent them success, and I would even say forward momentum, like a place to go from where they started, if that makes any sense. It will definitely make more sense later on as we continue just the story and discussing. This is also around the time that their image starts to be really solidified and understood by the general public. That photo of Luke Hemmings in the red flannel, the ripped black skinny jeans, the graphic tee, the beanie, it is just the quintessential definition of what it was like to dress in 2014.
Putting on my Converse, I'm putting on my black jeans, I'm putting on my tank top, I'm putting on a flannel, I'm not wearing any jewelry.
You're putting on a bandana.
I'm putting on a bandana, I'm going to work.
And 9 to 5.
That's what it looked like then.
Yeah.
And they were making a conscious effort at this point to have a sort of look and uniform about them that, made them seem like a group, like a unit. And what was this uniform, you might ask? Did Five Sauce wear black skinny jeans because they were the trendy look of the time for the alternative kids, or was it because they were paying homage to their elder emo ancestors? I'm going to say the latter, but you can say the former all you want. The second single that Five Sauce ended up releasing is Don't Stop, and this came along with the Don't Stop EP. controversially maybe the best EP they've ever released. The Don't Stop EP is definitely my favorite of theirs. And is that because Wrapped Around Your Finger is on it? Yes. That's like most of the reason why. I'm a big fan of Wrapped Around Your Finger. It's a good song. At the very end of this series, I can do like a top 10 5-star songs for me, if anyone's interested in that. That would be very hard for me to compile, but like I'll do it if people want it. Don't Stop has gotten some awkward reputation over time.
You're more of a, yeah, you don't stop.
You're a huge don't stop.
You're
You giant don't stop.
How am I don't stop?
That should be like a new insult. You call someone.
Get away from me, you giant don't stop.
I'd be really mad.
You know, we don't love the song Don't Stop.
You know, some people even like Don't Stop.
Well,
Some people do like Don't Stop.
here's the thing.
Apparently, there are some of them out there.
What's the problem with Don't Stop?
There is no problem with it.
It had its own category. There's gotta be some.
That's a fair rebuttal.
All right, fair. That is totally fair.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you I outright hate it, because I kind of love it. As in, it's a very, very catchy song, and I like that it was, like, the second single, and it was quite a big hit. I don't want it to be erased from Five Sauce history, but do I think it's, like, the best song ever of theirs? No. It's Don't Stop. What do you want me to say? There's kind of not a lot I can say about She Looks So Perfect, because it is just such an iconic song in both pop music history as well as in Five Sauce's career. It's kind of a song that, you know, is very important, and whether it deserves that or not has never really been questioned by me. Does a song deserve to be popular or not is like such an arbitrary question that people who talk about pop music talk about all the time, and I honestly think it's a waste of time, and it's taken me a long time to not do that myself. So I guess what I'm trying to approach when talking about She Looks So Perfect is what do I like about it? Like what structural elements are so great about it, rather than me just being like, it exists. I guess you could say I always liked how early on, they consistently switched up vocals. I always thought that Luke and Callum trading off was very, very nice and unique, and I wish they would do it more in the modern day. They do a really good job of trading off vocals, and they do a really good job of really selling this sort of teenage innocence. I really love the palm muted guitar on this song, as well as the drum rollick. It gives itself an anthemic, but also very light and airy feeling, which I think aids in it being like a summer song and a classic jam. I know the band have talked about in recent years how they felt like they had a kiddie persona at the beginning of their career, and I don't really feel that way. I feel like their songs and the way they were advertised and the way they acted was like pretty standard for being a teenager. I guess these days teenagers are seen as like grown-ass adults already, even though they are children. So I'm like, yeah, sure, they're doing childish things, but they're children. And it's not like they're fucking Barney, you know? Like, there's still some more complicated elements to their brand and their music at this time. And I don't think people really give them that much credit for it. They get a TV-14 rating, okay? At least. They get at least a TV-14 rating. A theory I have is that their management told them they weren't allowed to swear to keep a family-friendly image. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm almost certain it is. My reasoning for this is because there are multiple videos where, like, they're talking normally as, you know, a bunch of kids in their late teens would be talking, and then they see that someone's recording and they go, hey, we're not supposed to swear, stop swearing. And it's like, you're 17 years old. You're allowed to have a swear word or two, you know? Again, TV-14 rating. But I know how these record companies work. I do. They probably told them to keep the family-friendly brand, and that the 12-year-old girls who are your fans, their parents are not going to let you buy their CD if they see they're watching a video of you and you're dropping F-bombs. So I know that's probably why they were told not to swear in their music and on social media, but they clearly were very shit at not doing that. So the video for Don't Stop comes out on May 19th, 2014. So now we're actually in summer territory. The Don't Stop EP has a re-recording of Try Hard, which is quite interesting. I wonder if they did it just because they could. And it also has a recording of the song that is called Rejects. Now, I think this song is very interesting. This is one of those deep cuts which I feel like is not talked about often. And I guess it doesn't really need to be. It's just kind of a random song in their discography. But personally, I love it. I kind of love this song, even though I will admit a lot of the riffs early on in their career do sound a lot like other song riffs. It kind of sounds like they picked a song that they liked and then they just kind of changed the riff up a little bit, which I'm not actually as mad about as other people might be. Only so many riffs exist out there, and this is a very formulaic genre that they're playing with. Of course things are going to sound the same. Like, you think I'm going to get mad at Megadeth and Metallica for making similar sounding songs? Like, of course they do. They're in the same genre. It's what the individual person brings to the sound is what changes it and evolves it into a new song or a new artist. And I feel like a lot of people just sell the individualistic traits of Five Sauce short because they can't get past the superficial and the surface level observation of, oh, they sound inspired by Blink-182 or they sound inspired by Green Day. There was more to their music than just that early on in their career, and I feel like it's kind of lazy to just stop there, but whatever, I guess. Let's get into talking about the album proper, which dropped on multiple different days, apparently. I'm just gonna stick with what I think is the American release, which is July 22nd, 2014. It might also be in August, I'm not sure. They seem to have 3 different months for 3 different countries, so, but it dropped in the summer, because they're 5 seconds of summer. Who would have thought? I think as part of the drop, they did the hashtag 5sauce up in this stream, which was, I'm pretty sure, on July 1st, 2014. This is the infamous live stream where they scaled a building. They didn't actually scale the building. I don't know why anyone thought they did. This is also when they were dressed as Ninja Turtles. It's a classic live stream. I would check out some highlights of it if you're interested. Did I mention that in the Don't Stop music video, they're like superheroes? They're dressed as superheroes and they have their own superhero personas. Did I mention that? The album is officially out. Here it is. And this is actually specifically the standard edition, which is fucked, let me just say. I'm just gonna get into it right away. I was gonna try and ease it in, but no. The ordering of their first ever album is fucked. It's bad. It's rough, and they would admit it themselves, apparently. It's just like, this track list is bizarre, to say the least. Because tell me why so many, in my opinion, much better songs ended up on EPs only available on like international CDs and on iTunes for the longest time, did not make it onto the album proper and were left to the wayside. My only theory on this is that because they just wanted every song to get out there and the actual album didn't mean much to them as long as every song that they liked was out in the world in some capacity. But the limited amount for certain songs and the overextended amount for others is what the problem was for me.
So hard. I can't pick songs. It's like forming this child, this beautiful child whom you love. If we didn't have fans who listened to the EPs, we would just be throwing away songs. Imagine if no one knew like Disconnected and that was only on physicals and it's like one of our fans' most like popular songs. And that was where we just up so bad. We were just worried that the song was never going to get used. But hopefully we've learned from our mistakes.
Maybe it's just harder to understand as a newer artist, but the songs you released on the album just inherently mean more than the other tracks you randomly drop. When people go to listen to you for the first time and they want to go in chronological order from the beginning to the most recent album, they're going to listen to the standard version of the original album. And when there's a bunch of tracks that no one remembers or cares about on there, it's kind of bad. I'm sorry, is that mean? I'm a stern, concerned principal. I'm like, you have so much potential, but you're not living up to it. You're doing the bare minimum. Let's go through the standard edition American release of the first ever album of theirs, okay? Compliment number 1, and one of the only compliments, sorry. Compliment number 1 is that the first 4 tracks on this are very good. The absolute dopamine hit you get from listening to She Looks So Perfect, Don't Stop, Good Girls, and Kiss Me all in a row, it's very good. These are all amazing songs, and having them back to back to back to back to each other is genius. It works really, really well in the album's favor. And it's less of what's on here that's the problem, and it's more of what was left out. And I think many fans of Five Sauce feel this way, because there's a reason why the EPs are so well beloved within the fandom, and that's because it has all of their best tracks from this era on there. This might be the longest section of this series as a whole, because they just released so much music during this era that we don't really get that for the eras going forward. So I have a lot to say about the music, because there's just so goddamn much of it. A lot of the fan favorite tracks and a lot of the band favorite tracks that have stood the test of time and have remained on the set lists and have been talked about from people a decade later are not on the album proper. So a little thought experiment I want to do. Of course, we can't change the past, but we can affect how we live our lives in the future based on the past. I am going to propose a sort of new track list for the self-titled album. My own personal favorite track list that I would prefer. I have done multiple thought experiments on this to come to my official conclusion. Since there are so many tracks that I think are very, very good from this era, I would like to extend the track list past 12 songs. Personally, I kind of hate it when an album is longer than 50 minutes. So we're going to keep the track list at 12 for the standard edition, and then we're going to have 4 deluxe tracks to play with. Since they are a new starting out band, and they're trying to get people to buy as many physical copies as possible, I think having that Target exclusive 4 extra tracks is really going to push them overboard. So yeah, we're gonna do that. First thing, it's on the chopping block. We're getting rid of 18. I'm sorry, 18's a weird song, okay? I don't even think most of them were 18 anymore. No matter how young you are, you have to have some foresight in understanding that the song is just not going to age well, because you are literally at some point going to be older than 18. So to release a song about how you're not yet 18 it's not good. And to leave it on the album, it's so awkward, man. What was the point of this? Maybe put it on one of the EPs. That's a song you put on an EP. Or just don't release ever. Does anyone like 18? I mean, I could see it being, appreciated in retrospect as, a cute little time capsule for the band. But does anyone like 18? Next song on the chopping block is immediately after, and it's Everything I Didn't Say. Now, this might be controversial. I haven't met any Everything I Didn't Say stans, but it's not my favorite album. It's not my favorite song on the album from theirs. I still think it's a really good song, trust me. But, again, it seems like EP fare to me, and not to be officially on the album. I would rather have 20 million different editions of Wrapped Around Your Finger available to listen to everywhere in the whole world ever. You know how badly I want Wrapped Around Your Finger on CD? I desire it so much. I almost bought a $40 Japanese exclusive CD of the Don't Stop EP because it had the possibility of having Wrapped Around Your Finger on there. I'm not even sure it actually did. So I'm glad I didn't actually buy it, because it would have also cost another $20 to get it shipped over here through customs. But that is how much I love Wrapped Around Your Finger, and it's just so sad that it's not on the album proper, that's such a good song of theirs. What I'm saying is that I would replace one ballad for the other, and I completely understand if you disagree with me on this, because to some people, Everything I Didn't Say might be their version of Wrapped Around Their Finger to me. So, let me know if you love this song. It's just not one I always go back to listen to for Five Sauce, which is why I hold the personal opinion that it shouldn't be on the album, but I don't want to invalidate anybody else's favorite Five Sauce songs. If there's one thing I've learned since being in the Five Sauce fam, is that every song has its defenders, and even the ones that you think are bad are somebody's favorite Five Sauce song. So I want to make that clear that I'm not the definitive opinion on what is a good and bad Five Sauce song. These are just my personal opinions, and you can disagree with me as much as you want. And I hate to be so mean to Everything I Didn't Say, because I think it's a beautiful song. I think it's a wonderful song, but they've never performed it live, and they've very, very rarely mentioned it, so I'm just kind of like, you can go.
Dude.
End Up Here and Long Way Home are great deep cuts. My only problem with Long Way Home is that the studio version is a bit awkward to me. I really don't, again, I don't like the production choices they made on the version specifically. I love how they performed it live. They get rid of all the piano, and I think the weird plonking piano at the beginning is what really like sets the mood to be a bit awkward for me in that song. And then also because of how slow it is. They speed up the BPM of it a little bit when they perform it live, and it takes it to the perfect level.
Take me back to the middle of nowhere, back to the place only you and I share. Take me back to the middle of nowhere, back to the place only you and I share.
So it's one of my favorite D cups of theirs. Also, Michael has a verse on it, so that's how you know it's good. Is it time to have the Heartbreak Girl debate? Is it time to do that? Is it time to complain about Heartbreak Girl? If I'm remembering my 5 Sauce history correctly, I'm pretty sure Heartbreak Girl and Good Girls are some of the earliest songs they wrote for the album. It feels like a much older version of the band, but they planned for it to be on the album, so it's here. I feel like Heartbreak Girl has kind of taken Don't Stop's place in like meme song in the band, you know, where it's like they hate it. And honestly, for a reason, a good reason, because the lyrical material on Heartbreak Girl, man, it's kind of laughably bad. I mean, it's not Treat You Better, Shawn Mendes levels of bad, but it's up there. So, like, I kind of want her off the album because I don't like her as much, but to be fair, she might be able to stay. I know for sure Mrs. All-American's not going on there. Like, fuck that song.
Everyone hates on Mrs. All-American, but let's say you write a better song.
I know there are Mrs. All-American fans out there, specifically Austin Knight of Water Parks fame. I know people like this song. The fact that Mrs. All-American is on the American release of the album instead of English Love Affair is a literal crime. English Love Affair is one of the best songs they've ever written and recorded. Ever. And I get the joke, guys. I understand the point of the joke. On the UK release of the album, you put English Love Affair. On the American release of the album, you put Mrs. All-American. Like, I get it. I understand that's a haha funny joke. That was probably, you all probably thought you were really cool for doing that, and it was really unique, and it made each country, each region have their own little unique version of the album. The only problem with that is that English Love Affair is in so many ways, a much more superior song to Mrs. All-American. Even just from the fact that it just has a different tone to it. I don't think, besides the ballads, there's not any songs in like a minor key or have a little bit more of a darker tinge to them on this album. Everything is very sprightly and upbeat. Even Amnesia, which is like a sad breakup song, it still has that air of like childhood nostalgia, you know, which I think is interpreted more as a positive thing than a negative thing. So English Love Affair being on the album would diversify the sound, the sonic palette even, of the album. This is why other songs which were released as B-sides and rarities, I feel like would work better on the album or even as deluxe tracks. Purely just on the fact that the lyrical material was just slightly different than what was already on the album, or the sound just adds a different quality to it. Let's talk about Amnesia. It was the 3rd single from the album, and for the longest time before Youngblood was their biggest song ever. The acoustic ballad is pretty traditionally the song that is the 3rd single on the album. If you start to notice how artists, specifically in the pop music scene, release their albums and release their tracks, their singles, it all starts to make sense. The first single you release is supposed to be the most emblematic of what the album is going to sound like as a whole. So She Looks So Perfect works very well as being a tone setter for what their music is going to sound like going forward and what a full LP will be. The second single is usually a little spicier, usually, with a little more grit to it, if you will. I don't know if Don't Stop really counts for this specific case, but it's usually the case for a lot of other artists. And in traditional hair metal band fashion, the third single is usually the acoustic ballad that gets you a lot of mainstream crossover appeal, and that was definitely the case with Amnesia. So I'm pretty sure Amnesia is the first song to not be written by any of the Five Sauce members. It was written completely by the Madden brothers of Good Charlotte fame. There was also an Amnesia EP for whatever reason. I think if this song was going to be released as the lead album single, it didn't need an EP, but it got one. Again, we have more random songs like Daylight on here. I actually kind of like Daylight, even though I really shouldn't. It's kind of a bad song, but I don't care. Cringe is dead. And then there was also a cover of Green Day's American Idiot on this thing. Now, I'm pretty sure Five Sauce were asked to do the cover of American Idiot for Kerrang, who was doing a 10-year anniversary of the album American Idiot, where a different band covered each song on the album. They later did this for My Chemical Romance as well in 2016, I think. So they had already done the recording for Kerrang, and I guess they just decided to dump it on this EP since it was also coming out at this time. Like I said, I didn't want to go super in-depth into all of the songs on the other EPs, but I ended up doing so anyways. It doesn't matter. It's later in the day. The sun has risen. I have taken a nap. I am back and ready to continue talking about the album. I don't remember what I was ranting about before I passed out on the floor right over here and woke up 4 hours later in the days. So let's just talk about the lyrics in this album. I wonder if people can hear just the massive amounts of sirens that are happening right outside my window. I'm trying to film a YouTube video. Doesn't that matter at all to anyone these days? The lyrics for Amnesia, as I was talking about earlier, I think I remember what my thought process was. The lyrical material for Amnesia specifically is, in my opinion, a more mature take on a breakup song, and maybe that's just because it was written by older people. I don't know, but I think it adds a nice quality of remembrance rather than bitter hate or regret, if one might say. It still feels a little bit snotty with the phrase, "I wish that I could wake up with amnesia," but they sell it with earnestness instead of, like, aggressiveness, if that makes sense. See, that's why I'm of the controversial opinion that Independence Day would have made a great album track, or at least deluxe track, because it adds a different tone to the breakup song. It's vengeful, it's angry, which none of these songs are. So I feel like it would have added a nice different palette of sound, if you know what I mean. It hurts to know you're happy, and it hurts that you moved on. It's hard to hear your name when I haven't seen you in so long. It's like we never happened. Was it just a lie? If what we had was real, how could you be fine? 'Cause I'm not fine at all. They spell cuz like C-O-S, like the Australian way. That's I never noticed that in the lyric book. I don't know, for some reason I see emotional maturity and emotional honesty as mature, even though they are still being very childish when they say that, like, how could you be happy when I'm sad? Like, maybe the relationship wasn't good for her. Did you ever consider that? Can I talk about Good Girls for a second? In the sense that Good Girls is like a very bizarre track in their discography. Ow, hot. In retrospect, Good Girls is such a weird song. It's a story song, and they don't really do story songs anymore throughout their career. And maybe for good reason, because the writing on this one is just, it's a bit awkward. Like, if I were to read out the lyrics to you, I would assume you would agree with me. It's very weird. Here, let me read the second verse for you guys. She's a good girl, a straight-A student. She's really into all that self-improvement. I swear she lives in that library. Oh. But if you ask her, she'll say, that's where you'll find me. That whole bar only achieved one thing. Like, it feels very clumsy. It feels kind of awkward. But if you look, then you won't find her there. She may be clever, but she just acts the square. 'Cause in the back of the room where nobody looks, she'll be with her boyfriend. She's not reading books. What am I supposed to do with that? I never noticed that acts the square line. That is a very odd line. Does that mean that, like, she acts like a square? Like, she puts on the act of being a square? Is this the 1980s all of a sudden? Am I listening to Huey Lewis and the News?
You like Huey Lewis and the News?
The whole album has a clear, crisp sound and a new sheen of consummate professionalism that really gives the songs a big boost.
Hey, Paul, she's not reading books. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I love Good Girls. I think it's a great song. It had a lot of controversy at the time. People called it, I think, sexist or misogynist in some way. The line, good girls are bad girls that haven't been caught, did cause some issue. But my thing about that is that it is a pretty basic, Tumblr quote. I swear I've seen photos of, that exact phrase spray painted on a wall somewhere on Tumblr in 2014. So I'm not going to outright say that, they are misogynists for coming up with this line, because they didn't. It was a common phrase that was being passed around among the Tumblr grunge teens at the time. So I completely understand if people are offended by this song, and if that's a conversation you want to have in the comments, feel free to. I really didn't go in depth about it while I was recording because I was running on 2 hours of sleep and caffeine at this point, so not a lot of in-depth conversations about the patriarchy were being had, so I apologize for that. He's not even dating the girl or trying to get the girl, like in other songs. They're just telling a story about a girl that exists out there who pretends to be a good girl around her parents, but is actually a bad girl. At least in songs like End Up Here, he's actually getting with the girl, which I quite like. I love End Up Here. It's such a good deep cut. I think it was a great setlist opener, especially once they took 18 out of the rollout, because, 18 did not need to be on the set list for very long. Let's finish up talking about the album. So I've complained throughout this whole section about how I don't like that the album... Wait, let me fucking get it in my hand. I've complained multiple times over how I don't think the album has a good track ordering, and it doesn't give the full experience of what this era for the band was really like, at least the standard edition. A lot of the songs I really like from this band, you can't get on physical and are only available on streaming. And before they were available on streaming, they were only available on lyric videos on YouTube. But I actually think a good way to look at it is that this album more of represents where the band was at the time. They needed an album to push to launch the tour and to get the ball rolling of sorts for this band. In many sense, the actual songs that are on this album don't really matter, because what really mattered was the upward momentum that they were going in when they made this album. And that is something I don't like and disagree with, okay? I want to make that very clear. I feel like if you're going to release an album and it is going to be considered as a piece of work within your discography, the album means more than the singles and the EPs and all this bullshit, okay? Like I said earlier, it's the thing that people are going to go to first when they're looking at your discography. They're going to go, what's the first album they released? And they're going to listen to it. So in my opinion, this needs to make sense. This needs to have all the good songs in it, and not just 20 other tracks that you've dumped on streaming over the past 10 years. Like this is what needs to be cohesive, and it isn't. And that's a bit of a travesty. But also, since I am a fan, it doesn't bother me as much, because I know all the songs that I like that are out there from this era, and I just put them all in a playlist and I listen to it like it's the album when I want to. It seemed like they were more concerned with their future than they were what they were creating in the current moment. I guess that was a tinfoil hat statement, really. Have I talked about how much I love Five Sauce? Have I made that clear? Have I made it clear that I'm a deep in the trenches stan of them? But more things have happened besides the album dropping. The music video for Amnesia dropped July 31st. Do any of my fellow TV-watching Gen Z kids remember the show Teen Nick's Top 10? It was a show hosted on Teen Nick by Nick Cannon, where they would rank and review the top 10 music videos of the week. It was basically TRL, but for children. And also way past, music videos on TV fame. I didn't have internet growing up, so this was how I learned about everything, was through the television. So this is how I first ever heard of 5 Seconds of Summer, was on Teen Nick's Top 10. They were actually featured on there as, new up-and-coming artists. Teen Nick's Top 10 actually did do a good job of showcasing artists that were up-and-coming in the scene. And by that, I mean artists that were signed to, Nickelodeon's record label, like Emblem 3 and shit like that. I think they had the Vamps on there before they hit big, and Echo Smith of One Hit Wonder fame. I wish that I could be like the cool kids indeed. And 5 Seconds of Summer was one of them, but this was pretty much after She Looks So Perfect and Don't Stop had dropped, I'm pretty sure. So they were already kind of on the up and up, but they were still pretty new artists, and this is the first time I'd ever heard of them. I had no idea that they toured with One Direction or any of this as a kid. So they would play She Looks So Perfect on the top 10 list because all the music videos were voted by fans on their website. You would select what you think the best videos of the week were, and then the top 10 would be playing. But I distinctly remember an edited version of She Looks So Perfect where it was just band footage of them performing in that little lot and then people throwing clothes at them halfway through. There was none of the other people getting naked part of the video at all. I could be completely wrong in this memory. I could have just like invented that and maybe have just only seen a clip, which was them performing. But this is a memory I have deep down within me. And I just remember eventually when I would go on the internet, like at other places, I looked up the music video and I was like, this is a completely different video. But anyways, I definitely remember watching the music video for Amnesia. 5 Seconds of Summer around this time also hosted an episode of Awesomeness TV. Does anyone remember the TV show Awesomeness TV hosted by Daniela Monet? And did you know that show also had famous celebrity guest star hosts? And did you know that 5 Seconds of Summer was one of them? There's actually 2 things I forgot to mention before the album dropped, and that was the 2 tours they went on. The first one was smaller. It was the 5 Countries in 5 Days tour, which they talk about a lot now as like something that really fucked them up as children because it was an extremely intense 5 days of no sleep where they literally got on planes and did press and performances and shows and everything in 5 days. So that sounds like a lot. That sounds like crazy. I can't believe they ever did that. There was their first ever American tour called the Stars, Stripes, and Maple Syrup Tour, which of course went to the United States and Canada, and this was in April of 2014. And then there was the There's No Place Like Home tour, which toured Australia in April and May of 2014. So this was right before the album was about to drop, and this was riding the momentum of She Looks So Perfect and Don't Stop being singles. And then I'm pretty sure from May to October of 2014, they opened for One Direction again. They went on tour with them again, which I feel like I don't remember as often. They were definitely starting to make their own identity as a band by this point and weren't just considered the One Direction Association band, but they did go on tour with them again in 2014. So high off the success of Amnesia and just absolutely touring like crazy, they finally end in early October, and that's when we get to the festival thing that they had, the convention that they held. But yes, they held a convention in, was it LA? It had to be LA, right? It could have been like in New Jersey or something, but I'm sure it was in LA. It was a 5-sauce convention where people could come over and do 5-sauce stuff, I guess. I remember this being advertised a lot, and by that I mean they made one singular promotion video and talked about it on their Instagram quite a bit. At this point, I was starting to actively follow what they were doing in their lives. I did actually get myself a little smartphone at this point in time, so I did have Instagram. I immediately went onto their Instagram page, commented maybe once under one of their posts, and was immediately thrown into a 5-sauce group chat where I was asked who my favorite member was, but I didn't even know any of their names because I had just learned they existed. I don't know if there was much else to do during this convention besides just going to the live acoustic performance they did in the parking lot and the meet and greet that they did. There had to be other things you could do, but all I really know about this convention is from like the videos they've uploaded to their YouTube page about it. And I would argue that this convention is truly the end of the self-titled era, but there's a sort of mini era in between the next album release that, you know, I think is also important to mention and would technically still be considered a part of this era, but since I just know too much, I'm like nitpicking, if that makes sense. Kind of like how I said that the Somewhere New era of the band ended when they moved to London, but they still had a full year before they had really started pushing the new album. So that I kind of called that like the 1D tour era in between the 2 album releases. Well, that's what this is. I'm going to call this the Live Sauce era because this is when they dropped their first ever live album in December of 2014. The band was very popular and very successful at this point. They had gotten a lot of momentum off of their first singles from this album and were becoming celebrities. They were very, very popular. They performed at the Billboard Music Awards, which is also very heavily documented on their YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure because it was the first ever TV performance they did. This is also the performance where Kendall Jenner accidentally called them One Direction.
First performance on television, someone said the wrong name. Introduce us.
Kendall Jenner.
She said
One Direction.
She said One Direction.
Yeah.
And now we welcome one... Guys, I'm the worst reader. They're only getting bigger. Take a look.
And that
Billboard Music
That
Awards.
was Billboard?
Yeah.
Oh, we got.
And
I remember that bummed me out a little
coming
bit.
up, the next acts are amazing. It's 5 Seconds of Summer.
Fuck.
Yeah, that sucked. That was a real shit moment.
Thanks for bringing that up, Cal.
A lot of things are happening for them at this point. The book that I talked to death about earlier on in this video also got dropped at this time. A lot of things were happening for them. A bunch of shit was going on at this time. And with that wonderful moment, I will be ending the video off here. At the beginning of the next video where we talk about Sounds Good Feels Good, I will start by talking about the documentary that came out in 2015, as well as talking about some other drama moments that happened while they were, quote-unquote, the world's hottest band. If you guys don't mind, I'm also going to talk about the You Suck incident in the next video, just because I think it's really funny. I was going to put it in here, but I realized I feel like that would fit more in the next video, and also this is already long enough. So yeah, if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and tune in for the Sounds Good Feels Good video coming out. I'm very excited to start working on it now that I finished this video, and happy 10 years to She Looks So Perfect, if I'm uploading this on the right day. She Looks So Perfect is one of the best songs of the 2010s. You can fight me on that all you want. It's amazing. And I'm just really glad we could celebrate its anniversary together in this way. So, like I said before, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!